Warning! The following contains what are my personal opinions on The Last Jedi. Don't take it as me telling you what to think of, what's bad about the movie. None of this is objective. And if you take it as such, I will laugh at you mercilessly in the comments section. Ha ha! Alright, so, as polled on Twitter, it seems like quite a few of you want to hear my thoughts on The Last Jedi. And in my elite voice, no less. Oh boy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a normal series of videos giving my first overall impressions of the movie and then going into more detail on other stuff I've come up with over the past few days while ruminating on the movie. And then I'll come back to my overall thoughts video and I will replicate it with my elite voice. I'm doing this partly because I don't think my elite voice is it's not well adapted for these more kind of rambly, non-scripted, talks. So I'm definitely going to, refine whatever I say in this video and make it more like a script for that. So, I'm sorry, folks on Twitter, but, I just think this will be better. But, anyhow, my thoughts on The Last Jedi. Overall, I'd say it was a very enjoyable movie. I definitely got a kick out of it while I was in theaters. Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher were just chewing up the scenery. They dominated the screen whenever it was their time to shine. The rest of the cast was really great at the roles they comprised. The special effects were pretty good. There were some parts where there was a lot more CGI than I was expecting. But then again, that was for The Force Awakens as well. But, oh well. They definitely are doing a lot more alien designs that are a lot more complex than the Star Trek or Star Wars classic eras that were more costume heavy. But the cinematography was definitely really good, especially whenever we were in space. Got to see some of the space battles. That was the good shit. Especially the hyperdrive scene. If you've seen the movie, you know what I mean. However, there were some pretty big things that I wasn't that great with in this movie. Now I need to be careful how I say this, because if not, my boy Lord Tarkham is going to burst into this room, throw down a sword, and say, "Fight me, faggot." Oh boy. In regards to the pacing of the movie, it's honestly, in my opinion, is one of the least well-paced Star Wars movies ever. Just because it feels like we're constantly jumping back from point to point, because there's a total of 3 plot threads in this movie. Unlike, say, Empire Strikes Back, which just followed, mainly 2, plus the villains, which I don't really count the villains because they're more of a side. They're really more of a side thread to one of the protagonists' stories currently going on. And same goes for Attack of the Clones. I can't believe I'm complimenting Attack of the Clones. But yeah, the whole plot line with following Finn and Rose, I just believe it shouldn't have been in the movie at all. There was no need for it, and probably would have helped the movie out a lot more if they just cut that out from the script, and instead had it where it's Finn is helping Poe aboard the Rebels' flagship, the Radis, as they're trying to escape the Supremacy. Because hold on, I need to look up the name of the planet. I keep forgetting the name of it. Canto Bait. However the hell you say it. I just don't think a lot of the themes it introduces is all that relevant to the story, because it just feels like it was there to hammer home the bad guys are bad, the people who support them are bad, there are bad people in the galaxy. Even more controversially is the character of Rose. Personally, I don't see why she was even in the movie at all. She honestly feels like extra weight. We already have so many characters in this one movie. We have Finn, Rey, Poe, the new trinity of these trilogy. We have Kylo, to a lesser extent Snoke, and then we even have Leia and Luke. That's 7 characters that we're trying to keep track of. Adding in Rose and even Admiral Holdo, though I don't really count her because she does feel like she serves a purpose. Rose was just completely unnecessary, and I mean no offense to the actress whatsoever, because she did do a very good job. She came off as a very likable, bubbly person, but also had like a very somber tone to her. She just wasn't needed. And as in regards to a lot of the plot threads that are following the Force, Luke, Rey, Kylo, and Snoke, personally, I'm not against the direction they're going in, but I think it could have been done much better. I mean, the idea that the Force is always in balance or naturally reverts to balance, I think makes perfect sense. Like, it's a force of nature. It's meant to connect there. And as for Rey basically being a chosen one, I'm very split on this. Because, let's be frank, great Force users in Star Wars, their characters usually either have like a very long-standing lineage that is just forgotten, or they've come from nothing. And they just grow up really powerful with the Force. I'm not opposed to that being with Rey. Like the idea that out of random, she was manifested with a very powerful link to the Force. But she should not have been as powerful as she was in this movie. Like, if you thought Luke gaining such power throughout the original trilogy was fast, this will give you whiplash for how fast she does. Although I do think it's a consensus that we should have seen her train more, and the whole climb to becoming more powerful should have been a lot more gradual for her. I have noticed that, so I'm glad I'm not entirely in the minority there. But the one thing I do find as a real disappointment was with Snoke. Now, I'm not against the idea of his purpose just being to be a characterization tool for Kylo. I'm not against that at all. I do believe it could have been done much, much better, and with a bit more satisfaction or catharsis for fans who were just so curious about this character that, let's be fair, was introduced purposefully as a mysterious figure in The Force Awakens. As of now, we still have no idea who the hell Snoke was. And the fact that JJ said he's not a Sith, in my opinion, makes it even more of a missed opportunity. Because, well, spoilers, but hey, you should have watched the movie by now. Kylo kills Snoke and, claims his throne in a very strong echo of how the rule of 2 always ends, with the apprentice usurping the master. However, Kylo is very clear that he doesn't want to continue the traditions of the Sith. He wants to wipe it away, along with the Jedi. He wants to, start something new. My thoughts are, it would have been so much better then if we had had Snoke as an actual Sith. If he was, I don't know, maybe some sort of acolyte, a contingency apprentice in case Vader failed Palpatine. Because we know Palpatine was definitely that kind of bastard where he didn't give a shit about Vader. He was like, the first opportunity I get to replace you, I will, because I'm an asshole like that. Snoke should have been in my opinion, Snoke could have been a much stronger characterization tool for Kylo if he was essentially like a zealot of the Sith ways. Like, he was basically beating Kylo over the head with the Sith Bible, saying, the way of 2 is the only way. This is how the dark side scriptures go. Something like that. And Kylo, who's already comes across as a very resentful, very spiteful character, to an extent, that should have just been, more fuel to the flames of maybe how he's thinking, I don't want to deal with this shit. When I get in charge, I'm not going to deal with this shit. That would have been so much more impactful, in my opinion. Now, the one thing I know some people are expecting me to rag on or just go all rage machine at is a lot of the new concepts they establish with the Force. That being basically I'm not sure what to call it, the astral projection and transportation through the Force. Honestly, I'm not too like in arms about that. I mean, think about it this way. Star Wars is set in a galaxy, very big place. I wouldn't be surprised if the reason we haven't heard this in past lore is simply the Disney writers simply write it this way, that, hey, a Jedi or a Sith or some other Force user did discover this, but they just didn't have a holocron ready or even a bit of paper or tree bark to write it down to pass on to others. Which, I'm not against that. I think it's an interesting idea to explore more of the Force. It kind of leaves me with a hope that we might get to see some Old Republic style, or not Old Republic, pre Old Republic style dark side powers that are almost like magic, creating like homunculi and just abominations through the dark side, twisting flesh into just these horrible creatures like the Rakghoul. I'm kind of hoping that this leaves that open as a possibility. Now, I will mention one thing that I do feel pretty stupid about. Of all the theories that I was on board with in like prior to this movie, was I honestly thought that Rey was going to be a Skywalker somehow. How? I don't even know. I just thought that she was going to be a Skywalker, and I was wrong. Her parents are nobody. And my greatest fear is that because of the backlash to this, J.J. Abrams in the next movie is going to retcon this to be like, oh no, she was lied to, something like that, and she's really the lost daughter of Luke who happened to get drunk one night on Endor and banged a hot rebel girl. I am a little concerned that might happen. I'm hoping it doesn't. But, yeah. So, that's just kind of my very, very rambly thoughts and opinions on The Last Jedi. I will be going into more detail in a lot more structured videos, addressing certain issues or ideas I have with this movie. But that'll be all for now. And as soon as I'm done with this entire series, I promise to you folks that I will write a script of this original video in my elite voice. I'm going to need some time to do that, because, boy, I rambled a lot in this one. I really did. So until then, this has been Major Thesk, and I will see all of you planetside.